Hey everyone, hey, how you doing? It's Nathaniel. Hi Jenny. Hi Dom. And hello future self. It's almost 1 a.m. I need to start doing these in the morning before I get up. To I think give myself a bit more time. But today's been good. We went to the Socceroos today, as well as work, and on top of that, we did read some more of Legacy, which is an amazing book. We read all about the idea of self expectations and ownership. And the other thing we built on was the idea of um, core habits, which was done by Ron and Lynn, I believe. And they're people obviously who work within us in Team Mac and have their own history to talk about. Um, and yeah, I just wanted to quickly summarize the notes I got out of them. So, out of Legacy, the concept was this idea that um, the expectations that you set for yourself, the expectations that the team sets for themselves, the expectations that are expected, the standards you set, the expectations and standards set by the coaches and the mentors, whether that be in our business or within the All Blacks or in any team business, is the expectations and the quality of people that will rise to that occasion. And if they're the kind of people that are unsuitable for the team or the program, then that'll happen and get identified pretty quickly, because those people are the ones that will end up on the out quicker than sooner than later, because they are really not only letting down themselves, but they're letting down a team. And that has a compounding effect in terms of the effect that they'll have on their teammates, and therefore those people need to unfortunately step down sooner than later in order to prevent too much more of a loss with the rest of the team. Um, Now, the other thing we read today or listened to today was the audio by um, good old Ron and Lynn, and they talked about this idea of core habits, and the idea of being along the lines of these core habits are helpful not only for building your Amway business, and but these really are the kind of core habits that set people apart from either being great people who take a really great advantage of this program and the mentoring available, and there's people who just sort of mosey on by. So the first thing they had to discuss was this idea that leadership is like a goldfish. It grows to the size of its tank, and or better for better word, the lid that you put on your life will be the size that you grow to, and your leadership will expand, concurrently with the size of the tank that you choose to build yourself into. So don't be afraid to keep putting yourself into bigger and bigger tanks as you grow, because the reality is the bigger the tank, the bigger your opportunity to grow is, and you need that if you want to continue to grow and become a greater person as you grow up. Um, they talked about this idea that find other people who will make you stretch. Find a good mentor will tell you the expectations you should be making for yourself and tell you straight to the point. Whereas a friend will simply comfort you. They also mentioned the importance of actually being consistent and getting involved and actually trying to learn something. There's no point mentoring someone if they're not learning, because there's nothing to mentor them on. Um, the next thing they talked about was this idea of your leadership level. So, what level of leadership are you at the moment? And we thought about this for a while in terms of what ours would be. We reckon we're about a 4 at this point, and that's because we're trying to be a bit generous in the sense that we know that we still have a long way to go. There's like, compared to, for example, the leadership that some of these people in the legacy, or some of these people in multinational companies who make huge differences. The amount of leadership skill that they have is phenomenally greater than mine at this point. But so it means there's a lot of room to grow. But at the same time, we've actually come a long way. So we wanted to recognize that. So that's why we chose the 4. And the idea is that yeah, we're trying to. We've still got a long way to go, but we've at least got a number to work from. So our leadership level at the moment is a 4 out of 10. And the idea is the idea that if you build that to being an 8 or 9 out of 10, then that's the kind of people you're going to attract around you, because like attracts like. And the idea being that if you really get those people involved, it's going to turn your life from being just simply like a casual, like it's happening, to like it's happening, like really cool and amazing life that you're going to have, and the connections you're going to make and the growth you're going to make is going to be that much greater and better and compounding. They then talked about this idea of being the master at the when you come to the table, or a master who comes to the table with an empty cup. And I think Tai Lopez talks about this likewise. It's about knowing who's in the room. So every time you enter a room where either there's a mentor or there's another person in there who has something to offer, some information, go in there with an open mind to learn as much from them as possible. And every time you leave a meeting, a room, a business, you want to be taking away more ideas and more gold nuggets than you first went in there with. So learn to listen, learn to ask lots of questions, and learn to shut up about yourself as much. Because what's more important is the connection that you build with other people and the information you can build from with other people, and the stories and benefits you will have to tell other people will simply fall out themselves over time. Um, they talked about the importance of events and how they're quite good in terms of building initiative and motivation. But they really also talk about the idea that the process we're going through right now is builds maturity. It builds that long term and sustainable growth, which is what you really need as well to be quite successful. So don't be afraid to get involved in everything, and they all have their purpose. Um, they mentioned a few other important things. They've mentioned start enjoying dropping the message, like become passionate and excited about it. I already have, actually. I've already been not like getting like trying to convince anyone about it, but just simply talking about it. Like people are like, oh, why aren't you going to dance on this Saturday? I've been telling them, it's like, hey, I've got this really cool mentor program I've just joined, and I've got this really cool conference I'm going to. It's all about, simply improving my life and making myself a better person. Yeah, and basically just telling them about that sort of stuff. So I've really been dropping it where it's been appropriate. And they mentioned that whenever they've had to drop the message, they've always found that the more you talk about the who rather than the what, in terms of the people you were involved with and the effects they're having with you, rather than the idea of you trying to sell something or you trying to go through that process, you make a much greater impact in the way they see you and the difference that makes. So keep that up, focus on the who. Um, Setting up customers. So how can you increase the number of customers you have within the business? Have a chat with your mentor about that, about what the process is. But likewise, don't be afraid to branch out in that, because that'll be just as useful as finding more people to drop the message to. Don't forget your major habits, which are reading, listening, connecting with other people, and accountability. So make sure on a daily basis you're doing all these things. The reading and listening helps you to build that mindset, to build the consistency of learning. It builds that mindset, and really kind of transforms and in a positive way brainwashes you to think in a much more entrepreneurial and business way, rather than just simply going with the simple understanding that we have of the world right now. And we were talking about on the weekend about the importance of that compounding effect, and the process of doing things daily and being accountable for doing things daily is going to be the difference between whether or not you have that compounding effect that it builds over time, or whether or not you're going to have that effect where you skip a few days and therefore you actually have some minuses, and that means you don't quite make it all the way to the end of the week with a positive, +7 compounding interest on your reading and listening mindset that you've been building. So yeah, don't forget that accountability. Make sure you keep that up in terms of who you're speaking to, because at the end of the day, as much as you're accountable to your partners, you're also accountable to yourself, and you want to make sure that's being built in. And then lastly, the two big things was this idea of coachability. Make sure that you're willing to actually take what you're learning and actually readily apply it, whether that be the audios, whether it be the actual advice given to you by your mentors. And then the last thing, we had this idea of, with two last things. One of them is this idea of continuing the education program. So using that Peter Mac app and continuing to basically learn and learn and learn as much as you possibly can. Stay hungry. Um, and then the last thing that they talked about was this idea of the tree. So the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the next best time is right now. So don't hold back. Realize that investments take time. Start them right now and watch the fruit of them grow over time, and then you'll have the fruit of your labors to make life that much more fruity and juicy. All right. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you in the future.